Hello, this is Joe Trahan, welcoming you to the All Me podcast from the Taylor Hooton Foundation, whose mission is to enlighten the world to the truths about appearance and performance-enhancing substances. As the national leader on this subject, they communicate their educational messages through various methods, including this podcast. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
What's up, everyone? Brian Parker here, back as your host, and looking forward to hanging out for another episode. Today, we're going to spend some time in the most popular professional sports league in the country, the NFL. Now, when you think of the NFL, you likely think of the games that you watch on Sunday or wherever your favorite team may be. But for every team you see on the field, there's a whole community behind them that they represent. Because of this, every team in the league has a community relations department that helps connect that team and that community. So in this episode, we're going to talk with my friend Chris Millman from the Atlanta Falcons. Chris is the Vice President of Community Relations for AMB Sports and Entertainment, which he will tell you all about. This means that he oversees the CR department for the Falcons and beyond. So I'm going to talk with Chris about what all goes into running an NFL CR department. This includes how they connect the team and their fans, the ways they get education and resources out to their community through a whole bunch of different initiatives, and how they grow the sport of football as a whole. The other reason I want to talk with Chris is because the Atlanta Falcons have been longtime supporters of us here at the Taylor Hooton Foundation. We have partnered with the Falcons for nearly 9 years now, bringing our message to many of the programs the Falcons have all across Georgia and beyond. So me being the one that often does those programs, I was excited to talk with Chris about how we first got connected, how our partnership has evolved over the years, our most memorable events together, and why the Falcons are so supportive of our mission. Overall, we cannot thank the Atlanta Falcons and the Arthur Blank Foundation enough for the tremendous support they have shown us over the years. We also want to thank our friends over at Gatorade Performance Partner for their support of this episode. So now it's time to bring my friend Millman into the show and get this thing rolling. Millman, my man, welcome to the show. How you feeling today?
Feeling awesome. Thanks for having me on, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, look, man, I'm pretty pumped for today because I'll be honest, I've done a good bit of these podcasts, and normally when I do, I've never met the other person I'm talking to. Most of the time, it's the first time I've even had a conversation with them. So I'm trying to get to know them as I'm recording an episode. But today, I essentially get to hang out with a buddy, right? I mean, we've been working on going on 9 years. We'll talk all about that as we get rolling. But I feel like we know each other pretty well at this point. I've built friendships with you and all your team. I mean, every time I come down there, I almost feel like it's a family reunion. I kind of feel that way right now. So I'm excited to, number one, share with our listeners a little bit about how you and I work together. But number two, I'm just excited that I get to spend part of my day with you. Right. So let's,
it's definitely good to hear your voice. Good to catch up. And, you said 9 years, it feels even longer than that. So good to do this here with you today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. It's always good to hear your voice, and thanks for giving us a little bit of time. And normally when I kick these things off, I always, like I told you, I try to spend a few minutes getting to know the person on the other end of the line. And I already know your background, but just so it gives us a little bit of context for all the stuff we're going to talk about a little bit later. First question I'm going to throw your way is to let our listeners know a little bit how you got into what you do now, right? So, I mean, you're a top dog there with the Falcons now. You've been working in the NFL for a while now, right? But it took you a little bit of time to get there. So let's start there. Tell us about how you first got working in the NFL, where you got started, what your initial roles were, and then what your career path is kind of leading up to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, really long story that I'll condense for your viewers, but it is a unique story. It is a story that I do like sharing, because I think there's a lot of folks that, especially the young folks, that could probably learn a little bit about how I traveled to get where I am now. But I was one of those dudes who grew up, and I grew up just outside of the Washington D.C. area, and I absolutely was a sports fanatic. Would be the dude that would get up every morning, run out to the driveway to pick up the Washington Post and read the sports page so I could see all the scores and the standings and all that kind of stuff. So sports was always my biggest passion. Unfortunately, my jump shot wasn't very good. I could not hit a baseball very far, and I definitely could not hold my own out on the football field. So needless to say, I knew that if I was going to want to do something in athletics, it was not going to be on the field. So anyway, make a long story short, I was able to get my first opportunity in sports actually in the National Football League, and I started working for the Jacksonville Jaguars in their equipment room. And basically, I was hired down there not knowing what I was getting ready to be hired for. I had moved down to Florida to go to the University of North Florida, go Ospreys. And basically, I got hired with the Jaguars to do the team's laundry. So my job was to be the guy with the rubber gloves and walk around the locker room and pick up dirty underwear and T-shirts and old pants and all that kind of stuff that had just been worn out at practice, and wash them, fold them, and get them ready for the next practice that the players were getting ready to do. So did that all 4 years I was in college. I used that as a way to just kind of get my foot in the door. Led to me getting an internship in their communications department there in Jacksonville with the Jaguars. As soon as I graduated college, I landed an internship there with them, and then got hired full-time in community relations with the Jaguars down there. And basically I was now at the point where I was so excited to be where I was. I had a passion for sports, like I said earlier, and I also had a passion for giving back. And now I found a career that basically I got to blend my two passions into one. So had a very successful 2.5 years there in that CR department for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then an opportunity came open in Atlanta that was going to be more money, more responsibility, all that kind of good stuff. And I was like, there would not be a better franchise or a better owner to work for than Arthur Blank, who's our owner here with the Atlanta Falcons. So I put my name into the hat, and that was just about 15 years ago that I joined the Atlanta Falcons. And then I've continued to kind of move up the ladder since I've been here in Atlanta. And now I sit at the Vice President of Community Relations, not only for the Atlanta Falcons, but also our Major League Soccer franchise, Atlanta United. And then our owner also owns a giant retail golf chain called PGA Tour Superstore, which we have about 51 stores currently all over the country. And now I'm leading their community relations activities as well. So that's my long story, as short as I could possibly make it, Brian, to give you a little taste on how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, I know the story well, and it's a good story. And every time I hear the story, I kind of think of myself a little bit too, right? I mean, I was growing up a sports nut. I played everything, but then I was probably like you. I realized pretty early on, man, I'm not going far with this. I was 6'6" in high school, and I could barely grab the rim when I was playing hoops, right? So I was like, man, I don't I don't think the pros are in my future, right? But I did love it. I did the same thing. I mean, I worked in Reels for college, even studied sports management. I mean, you know this about me. I worked in sports for a few years as well, and I still kind of get my fix doing that a little bit with what I do now. But yeah, that story always kind of overlaps a lot with what I did. And I also think it's great to hear the progression of, kind of where you started to where you're at now, VP of Community Relations for AMB. And that kind of takes me to my next question. Is honestly, this might be the hardest question I'm going to throw your way, because I'm going to ask you basically what all your position entails. Now, I know that probably needs a whole separate podcast, because I know how much stuff you do on a daily basis, but let's try to like big picture summarize it as the VP in your role now. I know you just kind of mentioned the groups that you kind of manage CR for, but what does that look like? I mean, what are you kind of responsible for on a daily basis?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll start with probably the I won't say easier one, but the easier one to explain first, and that would be our golf retail chain with PGA Tour Superstore. So basically what we're doing with that is trying to get our associates that work in all of our 51 stores around the country, and basically getting them an opportunity to kind of feel our values. And one of our core values that we try to exude in everything that we do is giving back to others. So basically we want to give our associates opportunities to get out and make a difference in a variety of different ways there in their local markets. So me and my team on the PGA side, that's something that we're doing each and every day to try to get them to feel that. So that's part one. On the Falcons and Atlanta United, it's a little bit more similar because it's obviously two professional sports teams. Well, basically, my staff and myself on both of those clubs, we are basically handling all of the off the field activities where the club is making a difference in the community for both franchises. So we do that obviously in a variety of different ways. Obviously, both teams have professional athletes. So probably one of the bigger things that we do is we work with our guys on both teams and get them engaged and using their platform to really make a difference in today's world. And, I can tell you there's countless stories that I've encountered throughout my career since I've been here and have seen lives, changed. And I almost see it on a daily or weekly basis just by some of the things that we're doing to really try to change the world. We obviously always, have a number of other programs that we do, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are probably familiar with the NFL Salute to Service platform and Crucial Catch and Play 60 and all those types of things, and certainly that's efforts that are driven by my department and whatnot for our franchise. We like to consider ourselves doing Salute to Service better than any other franchise in the NFL. Georgia has one of the highest military veteran populations in our country. So that's something that we try to not just make it a month-long thing, but we try to make it a year-long thing. So we are constantly looking at ways that we can continue to give back to our military because they so deserve it. And then lastly, for both teams, there's honestly almost nothing that's as important as trying to grow both of these games at the grassroots level. So whether that be through youth soccer or youth football, we got to get our kids playing sports in general and getting them to play football and getting them to play soccer. So, whether that's camps or clinics or different programs that we're trying to do to support high school athletics, there's a number of different things. Brian, we've worked with you on a lot of those different things and initiatives, and some of it's to, help educate moms and parents about making the right choices for their kids to get them to go play sports. So, we have to do what we can now at the grassroots level. So we got a unbelievable National Football League, 10, 15, 20 years from now, just like we do now. But if we're not taking care of trying to get our kids to play, especially with as many distractions as we have in today's society, our leagues, are going to suffer, unfortunately. So we're doing all we can to continue to get kids to play sports.
Yeah, all that makes sense. I've always kind of thought that term community relations, it's a great term and it really does encompass what you all do, but it doesn't always, give the detail and the depth of everything that y'all do every single day. And you really are, tremendous department. I've said this to your face many times. I've worked with, probably close to a dozen different teams in the NFL, and I have not seen a CR department do as much as you all do. And that's not an insult to anyone else. That's just a compliment to you and the Falcons and your team. You are always pushing initiatives at all time. And I applaud you for all the work that you do. And I wanted to give you a chance to tell the listeners about a lot of those initiatives. And I'll put some links to the show notes for a lot of that stuff. If there are people listening that don't know much about Salute to Service or Play 60 and some of the things you're talking about, I'll put a few links so people can go check those out. But I know those are really important initiatives and things that you're working on all the time. And I wanted people to be aware of that, which kind of leads me into one of the initiatives that you just talked about and one of the ways that we got connected. And that's really through Moms Academies, a few other clinics along the ways, right? But I told us at the very beginning that you and I got connected about 9 years ago. And so this is where I want to kind of transition our conversation into how you and I first got connected, how our partnership has evolved, because our listeners may be wondering, okay, why are we talking about CR? Well, I want them to be aware of what you're doing, but I also want them to know a little bit about the partnership that you and I have together, right? So let's go back to those initial times when you and I first got connected. I'm going to start by giving our listeners a little bit of a story on how we got connected with the NFL, and then I'll let you kind of trickle it down to the Falcons specifically. But several years ago, it's probably been at least a decade now, we had a meeting with Commissioner Goodell at the NFL offices, right? We had done a lot of work with Major League Baseball and continued to do so. We were trying to find other leagues to do similar work within, and the NFL obviously made sense. So we had a meeting with him, kind of told them about what we do and the education we provide and our mission and our goals and the message we're trying to get out there however we could. And they were very supportive of the idea, and they liked our cause and they understood what we were doing. And they basically gave us a blessing to say, all right, here's a little bit of a grant. What I'm going to tell you to do is reach out to all of my teams, reach out to all the CR departments, tell them who you are, tell them you have our blessing, tell them you have our support, see what kind of initiatives and platforms they have in play that maybe you can help support. Right. And so that kind of left us for that meeting going, all right, let's reach out to some people that may not know who we are, but hopefully, this meeting will help open a few doors. And you were one of the teams that we first got connected with. So this is where I'll throw it back to you. Do you remember the first time we worked together, how we first got connected? Do you remember that first program we had together? What were your initial thoughts were at the time?
Well, here's what I can tell you, Brian, and I actually don't remember that, but I do probably have a better story. I remember getting this letter, and I can remember the letter to this day. I remember getting this letter handed to me by my then boss, who handed it over to me and said, "Hey, we just got this letter from this organization. Take a look at it. See what you can find out on them. But it sounds like, a pretty interesting group." And so she handed me the letter, and I read through it, and I'm sitting there going, I'm saying to myself, we would be absolutely crazy not to touch base with this group to get their messaging and their knowledge out into some of our events and different things that we're touching at the grassroots level. Everywhere and anywhere you go right now in the high school sports and youth sports community, all these parents and coaches and whatnot are talking about is supplements and how to get bigger, how to get stronger, how to get faster. And I know this. There is so much misinformation out there. It's crazy. So I remember receiving this letter and going, I think, as long as it's not going to cost us $1 million to have this group to come out to our events, we're going to have this group come out to our events and have them be a part of it so we can do our part to help share the correct information out there to parents, coaches, kids, etc.
I mean, you are right. That's a better story than even I was going to say, right? Because, I mean, you're just basically showing everybody why we love you guys so much, right? Because everybody got that letter, right? And not everyone had that same reaction. I mean, look, I've been doing what I do for 10 years, and I try to have conversations with people about exactly what you're saying. Like, this stuff is out there. There's misinformation. People have questions. Like, we want to talk about this. And you from day one were like, look, this is an issue. This is a fit. The NFL is saying, let's do this. Like, let's hop on board. Right. So that you already had that mindset from the jump, and it's just even evolved since then, after working together for so long. Now I can tell you the exact first program because, well, I could probably tell you this because I was probably super nervous. I had only been working with the foundation for a year, had not done any work in the NFL. You had I think it was at a school off Harper Ferry Road outside Atlanta. You had a bunch of basically youth league football commissioners in there, almost like a USA football meeting. And I had 15 minutes to summarize what we do and why we should be there. That was it. I got basically, by the time I even introduce who we are, I got 10 minutes to try to talk to these people on why we're here, right? Why we want to, share this education, this message with their teams and their communities. And I mean, I guess I didn't bomb that bad, because here we are, you and I still talking nine years later. But everything else is a blur, other than I had a short amount of time. I know the exact location. I can see the room, everything in that. I forgot everything else about it at this point.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, I've lost count over the years about how many events that we've worked with you guys on. But to me, the messaging that your team provide, the Taylor Hooton Foundation, it's never going to be enough. And we just got to continue to just continue to find our ways to get it out there. And you guys do a great job, unbelievable job with your presentation. So you bring it down to a level that parents, coaches, and others can actually understand. And I think that's what we have found so valuable in working with you guys, is just the realness, the raw, the stories that obviously that you guys share. They're powerful stuff. And so, I know we've done a lot over the years. I've always, and I've mentioned this to you, I've always I'd hope that there could continue to be other ways that we can continue to do more, because it's that important in my mind.
Well, without groups like you all, our message wouldn't be able to get into the hands of so many people. I mean, that's what's so cool about you and I working together is, we've got this message of education. We're so passionate that we want to share it, but then we have someone, with the reach that you all do that had the same passion as well for reaching their communities and also see the value in what it is. I mean, I think that's why we've been able to do this for so long and impact so many people, like you said, over so many years and so many different events. And I would say most of those events that we've done together, we've done a variety of different things, but probably what we do more often than not is, well, I guess you used to call them moms clinics, right? You call them moms academies now. The terminology's changed a bit, but the event's pretty similar, right? I want to talk about those because, I mean, those are just some of the favorite things that I get to do and really encompass how our partnership fits, right? So let's do a couple things on those, right? Number one, give our listeners a bit more info on basically what those events are. Like, what are the purpose of those things to begin with? And then why did you think our message would be a good event for that crowd and those events?
Yeah, so I think this is going back now, probably close to 10 years, probably just before 10 years. We started this program called these Moms Football Academies, which were again called Moms Clinics at one time. And it's just as you continue to listen at the grassroots level, and that essentially moms are the decision makers in the household, and as youth sports participation is declining, and football itself is taking a bit of a hit in the media for its safety and whether or not it's something that parents want their kids to play, et cetera. Ultimately at the end of the day, we know that moms are the ones that are making that call. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times moms and dads are making decisions based on hearsay or maybe what they heard from a friend down the street on, all that kind of stuff. So we said, what, let's offer some free events exclusively for moms where we can basically educate them on how to fit a helmet correctly, how to fit a pair of shoulder pads. Concussions has been a big thing in the media now for the last, 10 to 15 years. Let's bring in a local medical doctor or a neurologist who specializes in this concussion area, so they can help teach parents what are some signs and symptoms to look for if they think that their son or daughter has a concussion. So we've done that at these events. We've also have got into some football terminology type stuff, some basic stuff, just so again moms can speak the language a bit more on some of the football mumbo jumbo. And then obviously we've had you and the Taylor Hooton Foundation as part of these as well over the years. So it's doing nothing more than just being an educational an event and an educational platform. And we've hosted these in a variety of different areas, mostly in the state of Georgia, but we have done a few of these out in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and in Alabama, and have actually done a couple of these up in the great state of Montana, where our owner has a guest ranch and has a big affiliation and affection for that region. So we've done actually even a couple up there. So that's the premise, Brian, is to just basically have these so they're special for the moms and can make sure that they're getting the right and correct information when it comes to their kids and playing football.
And they're super fun too, right? On both sides of the coin, right? Like, I mean, they're fun for me. You put me in a room with 100 moms and let me talk. I mean, I love moms. I mean, that's a sweet spot, right? Like, I mean, I love those. You typically are
the star of the show. I mean, once Brian goes up, we know that, hey, right after he's done, we're going to lose the crowd's interest. So we got to make sure we put you at the end. So yeah, that's what they're meant to be. They're meant to be fun. Typically, I mean, they're always free. We provide meals, dinner for the moms. We just try to make it a real fun night out for them and give them a chance to just enjoy themselves for an evening. And so we'll have we're working on our calendar here for 2022, and We typically will host a few here in the spring. So as we look to March, April, May, we'll probably look for having a few. So if there is anybody who's listening that is interested in attending, and you are a mom, if you just go on to AtlantaFalcons.com and check out our website, they'll be posted once those are confirmed.
Yeah, I love the plug. I was going to plug it for you too. Anybody listening around that region, like, go hang out. I mean, they're just super fun. And I think our message makes a lot of sense with what you're doing. I think I always probably say this exact phrase when I talk to the moms, basically they're called Moms Academies, and that's the overall title of them. But I mean, you could almost just as well call them like, safety academies, right? Because I mean, that's what we're doing. We're having fun and we're getting on the field, we're having dinner and hanging out. But at the core of it, like you said, it's talking about all kinds of safety issues surrounding the sport, whether it be concussions and tackling and equipment. And what I always tell moms, and I do truly believe this, just being a parent myself, is like, well, safety is not just when you're tackling each other, right? Safety is 24/7. And so what happens in the sport of football is kids stay in it, even beyond just the youth football, they get into high school and older, they start to feel that pressure of, man, I'm getting told to get bigger. I'm feeling like I got to get stronger. I mean, a lot of times they are just flat out told that directly, right? And so if parents aren't kind of aware of the issues and things that they could turn to, or not able to have those conversations with their kids, then, sometimes there's nothing to prevent them from making a wrong choice somewhere or taking something that they shouldn't have. And so that's what I always tell the moms is, look, right now your kid may be 8 years old and playing football and having fun, and that's great. There'll come a day when they'll probably feel this pressure a little bit, and they might start seeing some things. And let's be ready to have that conversation, right? When the time is right, I always say what we do is we have a conversation that hopefully leads to more conversations. And that's what I love about those events, is because moms do that. They have those talks. And so I always try to say, look, the 15 minutes I get to spend with you, I'm hoping leads 15 minutes that you spend with your kid when the time is right. And I think that's what really matches up so well with the crowd and the goal of the event as a whole.
Yeah, no, you summarized it beautifully. That's exactly right.
And then the other one that we've done a couple times that I also think makes a lot of sense. It's a different angle, right? But we've done this a few times. I've partnered with you all as coaches meetings, right? Coaches clinics. In fact, I can kind of, it's weird the events I remember, but the second ever program I did with you all was a coaches meeting, and we've done it a few times since then. Why do you think that that's, from their angle, something that coaches need to hear? Why was that part of the itinerary, is let's get us involved, talk to the coaches as well, because that's a different angle, but one that I think you and I both agree is also important.
Yeah, so no surprise to anybody, especially who's listening. Coaches have a tremendous influence on young people, and a lot of times here, especially in today's world, a lot of times the coach is the father figure into a child. And so basically anything that coach tells them or asks them to do, they're going to do, because they want to please their coach. They want to listen to their coach so they get better, so they can go play at the next level and go play in high school or college or professionally and whatnot. And they're going to do whatever it takes. So let's just put it to you this way. If a coach is out there giving bad information or wrong information just based on something they maybe read on the internet or heard from their coach, who heard from their coach, who heard from their coach, that could not only have an effect on a young person, but it could also, not to be bullish here, but it could be a life and death scenario. And so we got to make sure that, especially our coaches today too, just as important as parents, we got to make sure that they're equipped with the right information as well. And so having somebody like you guys, a credible, knowledgeable source who basically pours himself into this supplements and steroids and whatnot world on a day in and day out basis, you guys are the ones that are going to pass them the right information. So ultimately we can save lives and make sure our young people are making the right decisions.
I mean, you hit it right, spot on. That's what when I talk to coaches, a lot of them already know this, right? But it's reinforcing that, like, look, you play a huge role here. I mean, the best example I can give when I talk to those kind of groups is like, basically go right back to Taylor's story, because Taylor was told by a coach to get bigger and stronger in order to make a team. And that coach had absolutely zero intent to send him down the path that he went, right? But it's making this connection in our mind of, okay, well, my words might spark actions, not always in a good way, right? So it's like even just connecting those dots of, in the sport of football, when they tell kids to hit the gym or put on some weight, and that's not always a bad thing to say. But if we are going to say those things, right, let's keep the goals realistic, number one. But number two, let's also get them some resources on how to do that, right? Let's kind of talk to them about a nutrition plan. Let's talk to them about an exercise plan. Let's get them something in place where they can accomplish the goals the right way. So it's not intent with coaches, almost never, but it's connecting the dots on, all right, what kind of decisions are going to be made because of what I say to this person, right? And that's why I think that demographic is so important. I mean, we talk to students every day, but for me, it's just as important to talk to moms and coaches and parents and athletic trainers and anybody that's around students every day, because I mean, they're the front line, for lack of a better word. And so, I applaud y'all for getting us in front of both those groups, because I think they just mesh with not only your goals, but with, the roles that they play every single day. And those are just, again, a couple of the things that we've done together over the years. I tried to, before you and I got on the phone, I was like digging through my Outlook calendar. I was like, how many programs have Chris and I done together? And I couldn't quite add it. We're somewhere like 60, 70. I mean, we're a lot, right, over the past 9 years. So there's been a lot of things that you and I have done together in a lot of different places. I mean, I'm going to throw it out just broadly. Of all those 70 times you and I have hung out, is there any one event that sticks out in your mind, maybe more than others by chance?
Yeah. I'd say the first event we ever did in Montana. And I say that because, unfortunately, a state like that probably does not get as the amount of opportunities or information or whatnot as, let's just say Metro Atlanta or Metro Charlotte or whatever, some of the bigger cities. And you could really see, I'll never forget this, just me more or less stepping off to the side during your presentation and seeing the parents and whatnot that were in attendance that day, just literally on their edge of their seat. And you could just see these aha moments happening in each one of them. So I think that will always stick out to me, because that was the first time that we had done something with you that was outside kind of our general region. And first time we had really done an event, the Falcons had done an event like that out in a state like Montana. And you could just see the impact. And so that will always stay with me, is, no matter where you or the Taylor Hooton Foundation is speaking, the information is relevant, whether it's in, Atlanta, Georgia, Bainbridge, Georgia, or Bozeman, Montana. We all, are humans and have kids and parents, and, you have the internet, and, things are just relevant no matter where you live. So that will always stick with me.
Yeah, Montana sticks with me too. I can remember the same exact night you're talking about. I probably gave more hugs and took more pictures that night than I ever have before. It just was a great group for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I remember so many programs together. I remember talking to 4 people in a rec center in North Georgia. I remember talking to 500 moms in the stadium. I mean, I can remember it all. But yeah, you're right. We've done Montana a few times together, and they always stick out to me. I mean, even just beyond the programs, just all of us hanging out, right? Like hiking mountains and getting lost in Yellowstone and hot tub hangs and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of good times that came out of Montana. And I want to take that just a step further, right? Because our listeners are probably wondering, I mean, you alluded to this already, but I want to give you a chance to kind of elaborate on it. Like, people are probably like, why in the world are Atlanta Falcons doing work in Montana? I know that's a connection of mainly of Arthur Blank, of the owner. So can you take that and run with it a little bit? Give us a little more info on like why he's out there so much and why that community matters to him in addition to the state of Georgia?
Yeah, so he started traveling there. I think most of your listeners probably are aware. Arthur co-founded Home Depot with Bernie Marcus, and obviously had a lot of success. And in the 80s and the 90s, as Home Depot built up to, honestly what it is today, him and his family would through some friends were told about Montana, and it's a great place to vacation and whatnot. So he took his family out there, and they started going to a guest ranch out there, and he just fell in love with the region. He fell in love with the outdoors and everything that Montana does for that. And it became kind of a yearly vacation destination, if you will, for him and his family. And then after several years of going out there, the ranch that they would go out and stay at each year came up for sale. And Arthur said, well, I don't want this to fall in the wrong hands. So he says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy it. So he bought Mountain Sky Guest Ranch. He has since then purchased 3 other additional ranches out there, and he just loves the area. He loves everything that Montana is, from an outdoor, from a connection, from just he just loves the state. I don't think he's the largest landowner in Montana. I think there's a few others that might beat him on that, but I know he is one of the largest ones. Anytime we're doing things here in Georgia with our professional sports teams, and from a community standpoint and whatnot, he always brings up Montana with us and always wants us to consider what we can do to make an impact there. And I could take up several of your podcasts with the amount of philanthropy he has done up there. It's been incredible, the amount of work he's done. And he's honestly bought up a lot of land out there because he wants to keep it from being developed. He wants to keep Montana what Montana is today, and the beauty of the mountains and the trees and the just vastness of non-commercial, buildings and that kind of stuff. And he's done the right thing. And anyway, so we've done a lot of work out there in Montana. I've never thought that working for a professional sports team in Atlanta would ever bring me up to Montana, but I've been here for about 15 years now, and I'd say I've probably been out to Montana probably about a dozen times now in my 15 years. And so it's an incredible place.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I could put a link to his ranch in the notes as well, but it's so cool. I mean, just what I love about it is, I would almost say it could have been easy for him to go out and just buy up a ranch and it's his vacation spot, and he goes up there to disappear and, get away from everything. But what I think is so cool is that, yeah, he did, go up there and get that ranch. But then he's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be here a lot, I'm going to put the roots into the community the same way I do in Georgia. It's just, it's one of the things that I really admire about Arthur. I really do think that he's one of the most generous people out there. I've only had the chance to meet him once. I'm sure he remembers me fondly and talks about me all the time, right?
I'm sure he does.
But you, in the position you're at now, I mean, you work with him, probably a little bit closer than I have before, right? So you probably know him even a little bit better than what I do, just seeing him from the little bit of work that we do together. So outside of just that work in Montana that people may not have been aware of, I mean, what's something else about Arthur that people may not know about him as a person?
Brian, here's what I would tell you. I have learned so much from him in my time that I've been here. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and one of the things I admire about him the most, is his heart is the size of the state of Alaska. I mean, he is all about doing the right thing, no matter what the cost is. And, and you could look at a number of decisions that he has made over the years, and he's basically just trying to, one, do the right thing, or two, is it going to make us the very best? And when it comes to his professional teams, he obviously wants to win Super Bowls and MLS trophies. That is always going to be goal number one for him. He wants it for the city of Atlanta. He doesn't want it for him. He wants it for the city of Atlanta and all of our Falcons and all of our Atlanta United fans. Secondly, though, is that he also wants, our stadium to be the very best in all sports. He wants our community relations department to be the very best in all of professional sports. He wants his charitable foundation to be the very best. And when he says it, he freaking means it. And I will tell you that, I've gotten some fastballs from him over the years. And when I've gotten a fastball from him, a lot of times it's because he felt like we weren't stretching ourselves enough to go the extra mile in this or that? Or have we considered including this group or that group? I mean, he cares, and he reads everything. He reads everything. And that's another big attribute I've picked up on from him is just he's a very educated man, and he's a very educated man because he spends a lot of time reading, all of his emails that come into his inbox. He reads all of the reports. He studies all of the financials. He is, he has taken a step back from the day-to-day of our business, but he is still very much involved and very much cares. And, ultimately, I think he just wants to continue to be the very best in what we do. So, and I think the stadium has kind of been one of his biggest projects since he's owned the club. And if you go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and compare it to some other venues, regardless of the sport, I think you'll walk away feeling that this building's pretty unbelievable. And was 100% driven by Arthur.
It's a beautiful spot. I mean, I'm right there with you. But when I think Arthur, I just think he's all in, right? I can even remember early on, because it's really his foundation that kind of helps us even be able to work together. And you said, look, if you write Arthur a thank you note, he's going to see it, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'll write it, it'll go to his office, someone will read it, and it'll get thrown out. And he's like, no, Arthur looks at all that kind of stuff, right? And he's just invested. I think that's what you want as an owner. It's someone that cares. There's no halfway with him, right? And so what I've seen that's really cool is not only his generosity, but I've just seen the trickle down effect, right? So his mindset, the way he operates, is exactly why your CR department is what it is, right? It's exactly why you're doing more for your city than other people, because I think that's just the mindset that comes down from the top. And that's ultimately one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to spend some time with you, is just to make other people aware of that. People already know because they've been impacted by you and him and your organization, but it's impacted us, and it all started with him. And it's been really cool to learn more about the initiatives that you all have and see it firsthand. And we're just thankful to be a tiny little part of that, right? I mean, you and the Falcons have supported our foundation in many ways. We can't thank you and thank Arthur enough. And so we'll just kind of wrap it up with that. I mean, we've done this for 9 years. It would have been easy for you to just, have us come out for a couple of years, move on, change some things around, but we're still hanging out. I still get to see you. So why do you, at the end of the day, why do you keep supporting our work even after all these years and times together?
Well, I'll use one of Arthur's lines, and this is the one I probably hear the most from him. There is no finish line. Okay, so we got to continue to pound the pavement. We got to continue to get the messaging out there. We need to continue to leverage you guys and your work to give you the platform to get this information out there, so we can continually make this world a better place. So there is no finish line.
I love it. I mean, we always kind of say on our end too, you never know who's listening, right? You never know. I mean, again, it sounds dramatic. You never know where you can save a life. I mean, I've always said, we'll talk to 2 people, we'll talk to 2,000 people. It doesn't matter. Every time I work with you, there's always at least one mom or one coach that hadn't heard this stuff before, right? And so for you all to keep backing us up and allowing us the platform to do what we do and mesh with all the tremendous values you have, it's something that I know I value. Our whole foundation does, but it's just one of the reasons why I love working with y'all, and I'm looking forward to continue to do that down the road as long as you'll keep having me, right? So, all right, that's a good kind of wrap up of everything I threw your way. I've got a few more minutes though before I kind of let you go, right? I don't know if you've tuned into our podcast before, but I sent you some talking points before. I actually got a few fun questions that I didn't send you that I'm just going to randomly throw your way at, throw at you. We call them the curveball questions. Is that good with you? You ready for a couple?
I'm good. I'm good.
Number one, I'm hoping I set you up here. I'm hoping I throw you a softball here. You give me the answer that I'm looking for, right? If you had an intro song, right? Let's say you're an athlete. Let's say you're, I don't care what you are, a wrestler, right? Or you're coming in for a speech. We're going to play a song for you to walk into. What is that song going to be? What's your walk-up song?
Probably the Hulk Hogan theme song from the 1980s, and the song that he would walk out to before he would go into one of his one of his matches.
See, I knew you were going to say a wrestling song, and here I'm in the back of my mind. I'm like hoping that you're going to start chanting the "We Ready" song. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, Chris is going to start saying "We Ready." I've heard him do it a million times at our events, right? If you're listening and you don't know what in the world I'm talking about, go on YouTube, type in "We Ready." You'll see a song. I had to look this up. I didn't even know the guy's name. It's Archie Eversole. But when Chris starts chanting this at a mom's academy, I mean, the place lights up. I've got some video. I'm not going to share it with our listeners. I'm going to keep that between you and me. But that's some of my favorite memories is just watching.
And the moms. And the moms.
Oh, man, good times. All right, question number 2. Random question that we had we talked about Montana, and there's so many stories that are probably not appropriate for us to share on this podcast. One question that I am still curious about to this day. I don't remember if we were leaving the house or pulling up to the house, and you claim that you saw some kind of menacing animal in the driveway. Tell me this day, what kind of animal was it that you saw?
Yeah. So for any woodsmen that may be listening, there was a wild badger in Montana that basically was roaming around the cabin that we were staying at that evening, and I clearly was the only person from our party who was keen enough to actually see the thing. And of course, because I freaked out, the badger took off, and miraculously nobody else in our party saw the thing. But that was the first time in my life that I had ever seen a real life badger.
The first time in your life, and the first and only person to have seen this badger. So to this day, I guess if you live in Montana, watch out for a killer badger that is just stalking the woods. That one day he's going to get someone
roaming Paradise Valley.
Chris Millman's going to say, "I tried to warn you all." Right?
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
One of the many memories that I have from our work together. And last question: if let's say you and I had a program together, I was scheduled to come down. Let's see, something happens. I can't get down there. How confident do you feel that you could give my presentation at this point? What percentage of what I say could you do? Now that I've seen it more than anyone else I've ever worked with, if you've seen me talk 60 times, do you feel like you could step in and be Brian Parker for the day if you had to?
Well, here's what I'd say to that. One is that I could absolutely 100% nail all of his jokes. There's no doubt about that, because it's just rinse and repeat. Although I will say, in 2021, you did pull out a couple new post-COVID ones that were a little curveball-ish to me, which I wasn't ready for.
Sure.
But I feel like I could nail probably 50 to 75% of the actual real substance information as well.
Oh, I think you're underselling it. I think you got at least 80% in you, right? Like, I mean, look, quarantine gave me a little bit more time to come up with some new jokes, right? But I mean, why fix what isn't broken at the same time?
That's true. That is true.
Well, my fear is that one day you'll feel like you're 100% know it and you won't need me anymore. I'm hoping that day never comes because, above all else, I want to take this opportunity to just, again, thank you. I feel like I've done it a million times, and I'm sure I feel like I also will never do it enough. But you and your group are just some of my favorite people that I get to work with. I shouldn't even use the word work, because when I see a Falcons program on the calendar, it's something that I count the days down to, right? It's something I look forward to. So this partnership, it's not only made an impact on me, it's just, it's meant a lot to our foundation. It's truly made a difference in the work that we do. So I appreciate you. I appreciate Arthur, everybody that makes all of this happen. And I look forward to when we get to hang out again in person, my friend. I appreciate the time and all the support.
Brian, let's just keep getting after it. Like I said earlier, there is no finish line, and let's just continue to work together to make this world a better place.
You're the man, Chris. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks for listening to the All Me podcast from the Taylor Hooton Foundation, a nonprofit organization leading a national campaign to enlighten people to the truths about appearance and performance-enhancing substances and inspiring people to live and compete without the use of these substances. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and tune in to our next episode.